So here it is. You can see I have all the same options as I did in VirtualBox, because I'm basically using the same system, only now it's real, of course. So, as I said before, I chose to do the screencast in the 1980s manner, basically shutting off all the lights and pointing the camera at the screen, and that's basically it. You can see I have the option of a live boot, which is what I'm going to actually do, or an install. Before we're really done, though, I have one more task that I have to do. So that means that I'll have to load into the live system, of course. There are actually a whole bunch of errors with these live disks. It doesn't seem to have to do with this one, just with all the ones that I've tested. Generally, error -71. There are usually some errors to do with missing firmware also, but the bottom line is that these live disks load anyway. Now, the final task to complete this persistence partition is to give the user ownership of it. But it appears the way you do that is to give the user ownership of an alias. I'm not sure exactly how that works. I would say talk to the Debian people about that. So we go to the activities to search for the terminal there. Now theoretically you could go to that applications button at the bottom of the dock under activities, but I've found that that doesn't work for finding the terminal. I don't know why that is, so I'm using the search. That's my explanation. Now I guess I'll have to angle the camera so that you can actually see what I'm doing here. I'll also show you the directories so that you have some idea how all of this works. This wouldn't necessarily be required. In Linux you can get color-coded lists of what's in your directories by typing ls, followed by return, of course. And this directory isn't actually the one we want. We actually want the media folder. So if we check what's in the home directory there, we have the user directory. Here I go further up to the root directory. And we need to go into that media folder there. So we have the user folder, which is for the media for the one user account. So if we go into user, we say the persistence alias there, highlighted in green with blue text. As far as I know, it's an alias anyway. As I said already, I don't work on the Debian project, so I guess you'd have to have them explain that to you, what they were really trying to do there. But the point is we need to assign ownership to that file for the user. The ownership of files is something that goes back to Unix, which Linux was largely inspired by, so only legitimate users can basically access certain files. Modern versions of Windows and Mac OS have this too, but it's more automated, you could argue. So to assign ownership, you type sudo followed by chown, standing for superdo and change ownership, followed by user for the user account, followed by persistence. Then obviously you hit return, and the ownership is successfully changed. Next we'll look at the file system again. So we go into the file manager. Then if we look down in the lower left, we see persistence, which, as in Windows, is treated as a distinct drive. So we'll open it now. We have the persistence conf, or configuration file, and the system volume information. Now, if this worked correctly, I should be able to save a LibreOffice file to that drive and have it stay, or persist as they put it. So let's try the LibreOffice test again. We'll go back to Activities and, of course, the dock to find LibreOffice, the application. So should I get rid of this window? Probably not, because we'll need it later, I think. So we'll go into LibreOffice Writer here. We'll see how much more quickly it loads on a real machine, although it does have to cope with that thumb drive as its boot drive. Well, it's slightly faster, but not blazing fast. So when I can get this keyboard to unfreeze here, I'll type, "This is LibreOffice on a real computer," and we'll see if that can be saved. Now we'll try to actually save it. Actually, we'll save it as this time. We use the persistent drive and not the documents folder. Actually, given the use of aliases, I'm not sure why the Debian team have not figured out a way to get the documents folder to work on the persistent drive. Anyway, we'll save it as LibreOffice Test, as before. I guess you could designate your own documents and video and music folders and so on the persistent drive. So if we look in the Recent Documents section there it is. Then we quit. This time the aspect ratio of the screen is correct, and there is LibreOffice Test saved on the persistent drive. I'll try to open it next. And it works. So now I have to try the real test of restarting the machine and seeing if it actually persists. So the machine is booted up again. We'll select Debian Live again. And the screen flashes a bit, which is normal. And it appears to be booting successfully into Debian Live. We still get the error messages, but as I said before, they don't seem to stop it working. I guess they might be a problem if I tried something more complicated. But I assume it's not an installation mistake on my part. I hope not, anyway. So I've successfully started the system. So let's take a look at the persistent drive. We go to the Activities and the File System. So we'll try to open the LibreOffice Test, which appears to have survived. And it's loading. And it's kind of crawling a bit as before, but loading anyway, and there it is. This is LibreOffice on a real computer, so there you go. So that's the tutorial anyway. I hope that this was useful to you. As far as I know, nothing like this exists yet on YouTube as of the time I'm posting this. The Debian Project haven't released a tutorial about how to build a persistent partition in Windows for Debian 9.8. Hopefully they'll come up with something more official soon. It would be nice to see ext2 FSD, the Linux file system driver for Windows, developed further. That would make these procedures a lot easier, certainly. I'm not trying to put them down at all. It just seems like that being a beta program, it was one of the main challenges I faced in building the thumb drive. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed and/or benefited from this video. And I'll see you in the next one.